Hi everyone, Claire here from Yoga Tums. I thought I would pop on and do a quick video. This time I'd like to talk a little bit about induction. So it's a bit of a brief overview. There's several reasons why an induction would be booked for a woman, and that would be because either A, she is overdue, and I'd say like pretty much most people know that that's one of the main reasons. Another reason would be that she potentially could have developed preeclampsia, or there may be some kind of a issue with the pregnancy. So baby's not growing, the baby's developed a condition, something may have gone wrong somewhere. And so if the hospital is under any doubt whatsoever, they will perform an induction on that woman if she is agreeable. And remember, that is very, very much key. They will discuss with you what they want to do, but it's down to you whether you agree with it. So you could potentially have had your waters broken. If you are due anyway, then that's great. But sometimes what happens is that your waters break, but unfortunately labour doesn't progress. So you've got about 24 hours between the waters breaking and there being a possible risk of infection. So therefore they would get you in for an induction to get the process of labour started. Another reason, well, potentially, you could have had your waters broken a little bit earlier than you'd have liked. So then they would look at managing that. So they would either talk about induction and the possibilities, the risk factors of having a baby induced at an earlier stage of gestation, or they would manage it. So they would closely manage your pregnancy, like really closely manage it, and take it from there. So what actually happens with an induction? Well, the first thing that will happen is that they'll actually offer you a membrane sweep, which is basically otherwise known as a cervical sweep. A midwife will book this in with you. She'll either visit you at home, or you could go in to see her at your local practice, and it is basically she'll insert 2 fingers and sweep around the cervix. I wouldn't go as far to say as it's painful. However, it is uncomfortable. I'm not gonna dress it up. It is uncomfortable. I can show you some mindfulness techniques called the Take 5, which is where you breathe as you trace the lines of your fingers, but I can show you that in class. That's fine, no problem. So this will be offered to you. The reason why they offer this to you is that once the membrane has been swept, it can trigger labour because there's a release of prostaglandins that go into the system, and it starts to trigger labour. It doesn't always work. Some women can have maybe 1 or 2 sweeps and nothing happens. Babies decide when they want to come, and that is it, as simple as that. So at that appointment, which is like usually 39, 40 weeks, they will also then book you in for an induction. Again, it is entirely up to you if you want to be induced. They will strongly advise it, as the risk factor goes sky high once you get past 42 weeks. They don't like to leave you that long. Also as well, if you were anything like me, I'm an older mum, and they basically said that they wanted me to be induced earlier because of the fact that I'm an older mum. Once you're an older mum, the risk starts to then go up from week 40 onwards. So if you're in that bracket, they'll probably suggest that you have an induction a little bit earlier. As it stood anyway, I didn't go down the induction route anyway. I declined it, and I did go overdue. I was booked in for the induction. I think it was for about 12 days after my due date, but I ended up going into labour naturally anyway, so it all was fine. So then, so basically they will book this induction in. Some hospitals differ from others, so it depends. You'll have to check whether you're at Derby or you're at Nottingham. I think the norm is around about 10 to 12 days overdue, and they will book you in for that induction. That normally happens around about week 39, 40, if not a little before. It's all very much hospital trust dependent on how they go ahead with that. So once you will be booked in, and it'll be either morning or afternoon, could be either. They will give you a, basically it's like a pessary. I've been told it's a, it's a little bit like a party streamer, so it's quite a long, thin pessary that will go in, and they will leave that there. And it's really essential that, you know, when you do go in for an induction, take stuff with you to keep you entertained, because it can, particularly if it's a first labour, first baby, it can take a little bit longer. So take entertainment with you, lots of magazines, books, phone, whatever you need to do, and make sure you take something for your birthing partner as well. Make sure that you have something around to keep the energy up. Energy drinks are really, really good for keeping your strength up. So 6 hours may go by, and at 6 hours they will then make a decision. Like, if nothing's happening, they will either offer you another pessary if that's not, the first one hasn't worked, or then they will get you connected to a Syntocin drip. The Syntocin drip is where it's like a synthetic oxytocin hormone, and they will then start to feed this into you. You will be also connected at all times to a monitor, so that they can monitor your contractions. I don't know what you've perhaps heard about inductions, but I would pretty safe in saying that inductions are pretty intense once they start on the Syntocin drip. So you will be offered an epidural to help cope with the contractions, because it's literally like going from like 0 to lots of, you know, quite intense contractions. So they will offer you as much pain relief as you need. So take whatever you need to take. Don't try and be a martyr. If it's really hurting, you know, and you're really uncomfortable, then just take whatever help is given. So they will monitor you constantly, seeing how you're doing. They may either raise the amount of Syntocin or lower the amount of Syntocin, depending on what's happening. If your waters haven't already broken, they will break them at some point if nothing's happening. And then you will notice that pretty much after the waters have broken, that things generally do tend to start on the increase then. The chances of having a birth which could have some sort of interception, i.e. like ventouse or forceps, there's a good chance of that. However, around about 2/3 of women go without any kind of interference from any kind of way. So it's the figures are out there. You need to check the NICE website, NICE website, for the latest figures on that. The latest ones that I could find are like 2004, 2005, which is really outdated. So it would be really good and handy if you wanted to look those up. But looking back on the older figures, it was something like 2/3 of women basically give birth without any interference on an induction, and then there was something like 22% go for a cesarean. So the main important thing to remember is stay calm. You know, your breathing techniques will come in handy at this point, but just remember that the most important thing out of all of this is that you and your baby are safe, and that is it. Women do tend to get a little bit frustrated that perhaps birth plans have kind of gone out the window, but at this point, really, you know, just stay focused on the main goal, and that is to get your baby out safely. Okay, so if you wanted to avoid all that, one of the questions I get asked quite a lot is how do I get baby out without actually having to have an induction? So there's lots of old wives' tales, castor oil, enemas, all of those things sound like really horrendous, and I don't recommend any of them. I really can't endorse it, particularly the castor oil, it's horrendous. If you don't know what that is, it's basically like drinking castor oil is supposed to it empties everything out of you, and the idea is it's supposed to trigger labour. Doing so, it is not recommended. I certainly don't endorse it. Safe ways. Okay, so bouncing on a ball is a really good one. Unfortunately, ladies, having sex, I know it is literally the last thing that you feel like doing, but the prostaglandins that's in the semen will trigger labour. I'm not saying I've got absolute 100% evidence on that, but I would say majority of the people I've spoke to that had sex would say that within about 8 hours, labour kind of started. Raspberry leaf tea. You need to make a little note on the raspberry leaf tea. Please don't do what I did and take it at 34 weeks. What was I doing? It's something that you really need to hold back off until you get to like 38, 39 weeks. Raspberry leaf tea, you can take it either in a tablet form or a tea form, and it will basically help strengthen the contractions that the uterus makes. So it doesn't always trigger labour as such, but can help make the contractions a lot more beneficial. But I took it at 34 weeks, and basically I started having contractions. So I'm just saying, like, leave it a little bit longer if you can. You can go for reflexology. So reflexology is really good because it helps to trigger labour. There's certain pressure points within the foot that can actually trigger labour. There's also acupuncture. And just general good old yoga and exercise can be really, really good. So there's lots of different ways that you can try. Just be really wary of some of them, because some of them are just really dodgy and I just wouldn't want to do them, especially the castor oil one. But keeping active is probably the most important thing. And I know that when you get to 40 weeks, 41 weeks, you're just fed up, you're tired, you just want to have this baby out and everything's kind of all over. But yeah, invest in a ball, a yoga ball, and have a look at reflexology. There's lots of reflexologists around the Nottingham area. So have a look and see what you can find. If you've got any questions, I know that was like a little bit of a whistle-stop tour, but if you've got any questions, then feel free to message me on the group or speak to me in our Yoga Tom's Pregnancy Yoga class. All right, my lovelies, see you later. Bye.